Hey everybody, welcome to the Cyber Monday Show. I will be joined by my friend Maekshyft. What's up?
What's going on, brother?
Howdy, howdy. Our beards are looking virtually the same.
You got a couple more months ahead of you there, kiddo.
Got a minute.
And don't get ahead of yourself.
I'm just gonna sit here and start pushing. But we are joined by one of the best cybersecurity and ethical hacking channels on YouTube. His name is Harley, head of the Infinite Logins channel. How's it going?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, glad to have you on. I've been following your channel for actually like a little bit. Since like early last year, maybe like a little bit before that, and there's some awesome stuff on there. What kind of got you into running a channel on YouTube and creating that content?
So to be honest, what kind of started it off is I used to work in the MSP space before I got into pen testing. I was an IT manager at an MSP in Portland, and I think a lot of people kind of have this idea that like hacking is super complex, confusing, magical, which it is sometimes, but it also isn't. And so I was trying to demystify hacking for a lot of my clients. I was doing cybersecurity awareness training, presentations, going on site, teaching them what a Wi-Fi pineapple is and all these various different things. And one of the things I would do on site is show them, how easy it is to clone a website. I would just like F12, view page source, whatever, copy everything and be like, oh yeah, clone that website. Nowadays, if I do that, I'd go to jail, obviously. But, when I did that, everyone was like freaking out. They thought it was really cool. And so I was like, I wonder, if these people like it, if other people would too. And so I kind of started to make content on YouTube around demystifying the magic of hacking. And I just wanted to show more of like the attacker perspective to it. Because I felt like if people understood the why behind like how things actually work, they would be much more open to actually listening when we say things like use character password. If people don't understand the reason behind that, they're just gonna be like, why would I ever do that? No. So that's really where it started, was just like, hey, I wanted to produce this content. It was basically a repeat of what I was already doing internally for my clients anyway. And I just put it online.
I love it. And if you're watching and you're interested in checking out his channel, there's a link down in the description. So absolutely check out. Backing up a little bit further in time, what kind of got you into cybersecurity? How's that progression been thus far?
Oh man, I mean, I was like 14 when I knew I wanted to be a hacker, right? Like, I mean, everyone wanted to be a hacker. I'm sure that's not everybody's dream, but I was literally like 14. I was playing a game online, and some dude hit me up, and long story short, he convinced me to go into Skype, and he dropped a phishing link into this Skype conversation, and this is like 2010. I've never seen a phishing link in my life. It wasn't quite as prevalent as it is today. I mean, it was still a big deal, but so I'm looking at it, and I noticed a few things are off. Like, the copyright in the footer, the copyright year was like 2 years old. There's like a broken image. It said .tk instead of .com. So like there were all these like weird things that I like knew it wasn't the real site, but I was like, you can't just clone a website. Like, so anyway, I was immediately hooked, like immediately. So I started begging the dude because I knew it was fake. So I started begging him, like, you got to teach me. You got to teach me how to do this. You got to teach. So he just banned me. He blocked me out of Skype. Never talked to him again. So here I am, kid living with my mom, just going home after school. How to create phishing website, and I started playing with that. I started playing with administration tools, Trojans, Dark Comet, all kinds of stuff, pranking my friends. And it was fun, but I didn't understand what I was doing, but it got really scary. Like, it got to the point where when you started playing with things like Dark Comet or any other rat, you could like look through people's webcams and keylog, like all this crazy stuff. And I'm just like thinking, like, I've got little sisters, like if this was happening to them, like, I don't know, it just really freaked me out. And so I also wanted to understand like what even really was going on behind the scenes. So there was a school that had one of the first cybersecurity degree programs, and it wasn't too far from where I lived, and so I was like, yeah, I'm all in, you know. So it was like as soon I didn't even get out of high school before I started meeting with like the head instructors there, and they let me sit in on a couple of their ethical hacking classes. So yeah, I mean that's where it started for me. Is just like I wanted to get in there, and so I went through school, got an associate's degree. I didn't learn anything, to be honest with you. I think most
Never
of my
do.
learning came after that. I had a lot of fun, met a lot of cool people, did a lot of cool projects. But as far as like learning goes, I mean, they put you through the traditional crap, you know, Net Plus, Sec Plus. I even went through the CCNA track. But yeah, once you get out of that, it's like start working. I started working at that MSP, pivoted into pen testing, and now I'm doing a mix of pen testing and I'm also a security operations manager, so I'm doing a mix of blue team work as well. A lot of contract work, just all over the place.
I love it. I mean, it sounds like there's so much to talk about. Like,
Yeah.
I'd love to kind of get more on your thoughts on, you know, how balancing both the red team and the blue team, you know, kind of simultaneously, how that influences each other. But I want to back up just a little bit where you mentioned that, you know, a lot of the pen testing stuff kind of got a little scary. And I feel like we do this all the time in cybersecurity where we're constantly thinking of like the logistics behind things. We're thinking of like the technical details, how things are done, that sometimes we can forget the actual like real world impact on people. Like
Yeah.
that, you know, this stuff is like getting access to people's webcams at times. And it's like there are some bad people out there doing some bad things using the tools that we're talking about. You know, how has that like impacted like, you know, your interactions with businesses, your interaction with like making content on YouTube, you know, and managing and leading people in cybersecurity?
It's huge because again, I mean, I've been playing with this stuff for so long that to me, it's like easy to assume everyone knows this stuff. And then you start talking with even just my peers, people I went to school with, my girlfriend, you know, showing my family, like, and to them, they're completely oblivious of a lot of this stuff. They're just normal people. They're not weird like us. And, you know, it's just, it's just crazy to me that like, unless these people like are told these things, they don't know. And so yeah, I mean, I think that the type of work you're doing, the type of work that a lot of our friends are doing on Twitter and YouTube and wherever else, all the blogs and everything, I think that that's more impactful than people think, like people realize. Because yeah, we share a lot of content between us, you know, we all kind of go in the same circles, but every so often you get someone who's not part of these circles who picks up something, and I think that that's super impactful when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, it. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, it really gets kind of bad. Like, you know, we can get pretty like callous to it almost after a minute. Especially, you know, as you said, like whenever we're really just interacting within our circle, within other people in the industry. Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. We have a comment here from Parker Dot, friend of the channel. Which do you prefer, red team or blue?
Me, 100% red team. I love the red team. I started even at the company I work at full time, where I'm a security operations manager. I started doing internal pen testing for them, and then as time went on, there was just a really big need. They needed a lot of help. I was getting pulled into a lot of incident response anyway, so I kind of stepped in to help fill that role. But even though the title is security operations manager, and I'm overseeing both the red team and blue team efforts, which is really, really cool. Kind of sucks as a manager because you're in meetings more than you're on the keyboard. But you know, I think the offensive stuff is much more interesting to me. It also, in my opinion, is less stressful. And I've heard other people say the opposite, that a lot of people think that the offensive stuff is more stressful. But I don't know. You know, on the offensive side, you really only got to be right a couple times, sometimes even just once. But the blue team, as everyone knows, right? It's never easy. To me, when I'm doing incident response, I never feel comfortable stopping. It's always like, okay, if I stop here, I missed something. And I think that's the hacker mindset of like when you're hitting your head against the wall of not being able to figure out how to get a shell on that box. You know it's possible, you just haven't found out how yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I feel when I'm doing blue team work. Is even if nothing's really there, I'm chasing a false positive. I never feel comfortable stopping, and I don't know. To me, red team's funner.
Yeah, I feel that. And then it is frustrating whenever you find out you are chasing a false positive and all that time was spent, not chasing a true positive. That was the next case in your queue, and you're like, oh crap.
Yep.
Happens.
Exactly.
It's just part of the work. It's just part of the work, unfortunately. This one is an interesting and timely question from Austin Moore. What do you guys think about the powers of nation states when it comes to cyber versus kinetic response? For instance, the Ukrainian government hack recently. And to kind of set the scene for those that are watching, I posted a couple videos about the website defacement on Ukrainian government websites, and then Whispergate, the new very destructive malware that's been seen. So I mean, I'll leave that up to you guys. What do you think?
To be honest, I want to hear Maekshyft's opinion. I've been I kind of talk a lot, and I want to make sure he's get a chance to kind of speak up. Do you have any thoughts?
I'm gonna be honest with you. So I've been laying super low today, and even the past couple of days because I was dealing with some wedding stuff for a buddy of mine, and I saw the videos come up because I get notified anytime Caleb posts a video. I have not had a chance to dig into any of this, so I'm ashamed to say that I don't know anything about this attack right now.
Hey man, there's so much. How can anyone know everything? You know what I mean? There's a lot.
Like I said, it just happened to come around on a weekend where I've literally been busy pretty much nonstop, and today was kind of my chill day. And yeah, I haven't had a chance to catch up on any of it. So
you're not allowed to have a chill day in infosec. What are you doing, man?
I'm blue team. I have a chill day.
No, I only know a little bit about what was going on with Whispergate. I did some research into it today. The gist that I've got is it's primarily targeting the Ukraine, both government agencies as well as non-government agencies. But I thought what was super interesting about it is the fact that it's just destructive. Like there's no financial gain to be had. It's just I'm going in there for what I'm assuming is a political reason, but again, I don't know that much. But just to mess things up. And I also thought it was interesting they're using Discord as a delivery method there, but who knows? Maybe Discord is more widespread in government agencies than I thought.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that is an interesting observation. Like, are they hosting like their own like private Discord server in like the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense?
Yeah.
It's like, sup, dude, you launching an offense tomorrow? Like, yep, let's go.
There's a really cool dude named Matt Husky Hacks. He's all over Twitter. He had the PMAT through TCM Academy. Super cool dude. He's got a thread on Twitter right now where he's been kind of deconstructing Whispergate. And as it was live last night, as far as like, okay, I did an update. This is what I found. 5 minutes later, okay, new update. This is what I found. It was super cool. A lot of it went way over my head. The dude's way too smart for me. But totally, like if you're into malware analysis and things like that, totally check out Husky Hacks on Twitter.
Yeah, and this has been, I mean, especially if you're into forensics, it's a pretty interesting write-up by Microsoft. And like if you watch my video on it, I include a link, so just like a shortcut, I guess, if you're on YouTube. But Microsoft did a write-up, and they kind of I don't know. So I saw that he included like a stage 3. Whenever I was reading through it, I didn't see stage 3, so I need to go through and like read his thread. But they really like deconstruct, or they at least explain, and I think it's pretty easy to consume. Like I don't think that I'm necessarily like the most technically gifted individual on the planet, and I feel like I was able to like read that documentation and like kind of understand what all is going on pretty easily. And it's interesting, like. Just like you said, it's intent entirely for destruction. Yeah. It's not like ransomware where it's offering like a mechanism to recover your assets, and just pay money. It's just straight destroying it. It's overriding everything. Yeah. And that's kind of one of those things that makes you kind of question who the threat actor is,
right? Or what they're holding.
Sorry.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just meant or what their goal is, right? Like what?
Yeah,
what are they
like does it make you like automatically write off like the existing like ransomware groups and like the cybercrime groups? Because like, isn't their objective primarily money? Like, why would it be taking anything down? And so it kind of like just by context, it kind of really only leaves maybe like one or two different large neighbors as potential candidates for attribution, but who knows? It's 2022. I want to talk about, so you're doing both red team and blue team work. How does that kind of influence each other and not only help with the red team side but also help with the blue team side?
Yeah, dude. So red team work, again, I think is super fun. It's always what I strive to get into eventually. But I did my time on the help desk. I did my time as a sysadmin, as a network guy, as well as general IT manager, jack of all trades. So, and there's some blue team that just, in my opinion, is part of a sysadmin's responsibility. It's obviously not quite the same as like full blown SOC analyst, but I think if you're in IT, you really need to have your blue team hat on all the time. So I did a lot of time doing that type of stuff, and then eventually I was able to pivot into pen testing, which I don't really see as like, I think it would be really hard for someone to go straight from zero to pen tester without any sort of prior experience. I think it's possible. I mean, there's some smart people out there that are way better at things than I am. I think they could pull it off for sure. But for me, the easiest path was I'm going to get some IT blue team type work under my belt, and then I'm going to move into pen testing. And it really makes you a stronger pen tester, makes you a stronger red teamer if you're trying to be quiet and fly under the radar. If you know how sysadmins think, if you know how end users think, if you've done your time on the help desk and you take those calls and you understand how people authenticate over the phone, or how most of them don't, or how people pick passwords or whatever, it just makes it to where you can look at something, or when you hop on a box and you see things, what to go after first, because you're like, oh, well, when I was a sysadmin, I used Notepad++ and I didn't always hit save. So maybe I've got some things there in cache, that are still, maybe some credentials or something that I can go grab out of the Notepad++ cache. You may not think of that if you hadn't been a sysadmin before. So I think that type of knowledge is helpful when you're pivoting into something like red team and pen testing, and vice versa, for sure. If you can understand how a hacker thinks, when you get that alert that an end user just got brute forced and now there's a successful login on a system, a lot of people, I think, have this tunnel vision where it's like, okay, this one system is the problem. Even though that alert happened 2 days ago and we're really behind on responding here, if we can contain this one system, we're good. What they don't understand is, in that time, right, what other systems have they been able to laterally move to? Can we dump the local SAM database, take those hashes and pass them around, because local admin passwords are the same across the domain, right? Like that type of knowledge, when you know that that's a good technique used by attackers, when you're a blue teamer, you start looking for those things. So I really do think having skills in one is only going to help you in the other.
Could not agree more with that. I do want to kind of point out that Parker had asked another question, the one after Austin's, and it was, what's one thing you guys wish everyone outside of infosec knew to be more security conscious?
MFA, everything, password security. Honestly, like I hate that that's what I kind of default to, because everybody's been preaching it for who knows how long. But really, I mean, come on, I'm still seeing winter 2021 passwords every pen test I do, and it's not getting better. So yeah, I just wish people knew just how easy it is. And if you don't want to use a good password, please just do MFA. And it's such a pain dealing with people that, oh, I don't want to install the app on my phone, or I don't want to take that extra 15 seconds. And I don't get it. To me, that extra 15 seconds, that app on my phone, that's peace of mind. But yeah, that's mine. What about you guys?
Well, personally, I mean, I think that, and I guess I I default back to this as well, is, kind of knowing what to look for in phishing emails. Because I
Yes.
even think, like, for as important as MFA is, I think a lot of that, like, you can almost kind of get away with that if you have like really good passwords, like if you're explaining to people, hey, create ones that are, 16 characters or longer, having, alphanumeric and special characters. I think you can get away with that a little bit. But I think it's like, if you get a phishing, email or whatever, and they click on a link or they open an attachment, your MFA goes out the window at that point, because they already have something installed on your PC and you were the one that enacted it. And I mean, especially nowadays with how bad ransomware is, I mean, even just something as simple as clicking on that can literally bring down an entire, network at times. And,
Yeah.
it's just horrible. So
That's a
I think that,
That's a good
what
point.
were you saying?
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's like, I just think that, we need more user training in that. And I'm not saying you got to get into, the nitty gritty about looking at headers and everything on it, but even just simple stuff like, okay, well, it says, service at Amazon.com, but what does the rest of the full blown email actually say? Noticing grammatic errors, in the body of the email, and, knowing to hover over links, to see where they actually send you and everything. I think just even simple stuff like that, you would really, really notice a difference in how often people click on stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're 100% right there, because you're right. I mean, I could be using a 20-character password, but if I give it to you because I fell for a fish, hey, it's out the window. Or
Yeah.
evil Gen X, boom, bypassed MFA. Like you said, install malware, keylog it, whatever. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
100%
I
right.
mean,
There's,
and like I said, right, like ransomware is just like the tip of the iceberg of stuff that you can do with that. I mean, you can do any number of things to compromise their systems and pivot into other ones and infect other systems. I think learning that and teaching people that are not only, at lower levels, like your elementary or even, your high school levels, but even teaching like some of the senior citizens that aren't used to being, they're retired, they might live alone or whatever. So what do they have? They probably have a computer or a laptop or a tablet or something that
man,
they
that
get
one's
on
tough.
and they play games on and everything, so they're not understanding, like, oh, phishing, like, no, it's this Nigerian prince, he's trying to send me money, I need to click on this link, and then they do it, and then they're like, oh, I sent him $3,000, and it's like, well, you're never gonna get that money back.
I see Austin Moore posted in the chat. He mentioned that vishing is more and more prominent and way more effective, and I couldn't agree more.
Oh yeah.
I've been on red team assessments where we couldn't get past spam filters. Even the most targeted like spam fish that we tried to do, or spear fish that we tried to do, it just wasn't working. So then I was like, I'll just call them and ask for their password. And people just think like, if you're friendly, you've got a voice that sounds like it's from the United States, and you have a good enough reason to be asking what you're asking. People don't really think twice about just doing what you tell them to do, and it's so much easier over the phone. It's so much easier.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and it's got to be one of the most frustrating things about, I think, being in cybersecurity, is it's a lot of like the low-hanging fruit stuff to us that just everyday people seem to struggle the most with. And I'm so curious if, how much of that really is because most people see it as like optional steps and not necessarily as mandatory steps. I'll let you guys like fill in the blanks. There's a lot of things that we do for the public good that, we each, take, 5 minutes in a day at most. And like that effort protects the people to our left and our right. Mm-hmm. And like ransomware can kill people too.
Yeah.
and so, and that's reversible. We were just talking about Whispergate. That might actually be designed to kill people. And something like a good password and multi-factor authentication, 5 minutes at most in a day, could actually like keep people from dying because this outbreak isn't going to permeate through our system because someone busted your account. I don't know, like if, that's something that I wonder about myself and like with the channel. How am I not communicating? How can I communicate this better? And like, how can the industry as a whole communicate this better? That we're not adding additional inconveniences, to just make things more complicated because, it's more secure. Like, we're trying to make sure that bad things don't happen that have already happened, but it can happen again. We're trying to keep that from happening.
It's the question that I ask all the time, especially when you hear of, like hospitals and everything getting hacked from simple stuff because of them, these attackers are going after the low hanging fruit. And I constantly keep asking, how many more times do we have to hear about stuff like the Colonial Pipeline? Like, I think there was a hospital down in Atlanta that got hacked, all this stuff. How many more times do we have to see this stuff coming across the news before it actually starts sinking into people like, hey, maybe we should actually start investing in better methods of training our users, protecting our systems, and all this other stuff. I mean, hell, I'm sure even Harley can account to this. Like, how many companies don't do, even annual pen tests or have, bug bounty programs set up to where they don't even know what their vulnerabilities are. And they might be like smaller companies, but it's like, you start knocking out mom and pop shops or whatever, even because of all this, it's like, okay, well, that you just ruined somebody's, entire life. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's
tough. I think people care. I think they do. And I think a lot of them, they see the stuff in the news. I think a lot of them get scared. I think it just goes back to no one who doesn't do this every day like us, they don't get it. Like they don't, not that they don't get that they need to just listen to us. They just don't get it. Like they don't know it's to them magic. It's magic what happens. Like the ransomware outbreaks. I don't know what hacking is. Matrix letters across the screen, I don't get it. But I think if we continue to do the type of things that we're doing where we try to reach people and demystify the magic of hacking, piece by piece, I think we'll eventually get there. But you also, I think organizations have to have the right personnel to continue to fight the good fight from the inside too. Because once you get hired, even if you're at a company where they've got like a mature information security team with all kinds of various certifications, and it's still a fight to ever make even the slightest change. It's a fight. So
I think that transitions perfectly to a question from Dancing Bear, not to be confused with Fancy Bear.
Ooh,
nice. There's a joke for you. Do you guys have any tips on deciding what company you want to work at? Or should you focus more on the job than the company? I love this question.
Who's first? Who's going first? All right, I'll take a stab at it. So I think that you got to decide what's important to you. To me, I had to take the leap when I was working as an IT manager at that MSP. It's coming up on like 4 years of being there. I always wanted to get into pen testing, but it's like, okay, I'm kind of taking too long, and I really wanted to pivot. So I think breaking into pen testing is brutally hard. At least that was my experience. You really got to put yourself out there. That's also part of the reason I started making like a blog, and some of the reason I did YouTube. I just wanted to kind of, differentiate from the crowd. But to me, it was almost just like, all right, to get my foot in the door, I was willing to take a huge pay cut if it meant, just having an opportunity. So I did. I took a huge pay cut, and I just joined whoever would take me, just to get me that initial foot in the door, learn a little bit from someone who was smarter than me. And then from there, when it made sense, I left and I moved on to the place I wanted to be. So I think that you've got to do what's important for you in your career at your exact moment in time. I think in the long run, it's important to find the right company, and sometimes the right company is building your own company. There's so many options out there that, yes, you want to have like the end goal in mind, but I also think it's really important to figure out what the next step looks like for where you're at today, and just focus a step at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I think on deciding what company you want to work at, it kind of falls in line with what you were saying, Harley, is, if you're trying to get your foot in the door, you almost kind of go after any company that's willing to bring you on, especially since you have no, cybersecurity experience, as far as actually, on the floor working. And that, at least that was my way of doing it, was I was just like, I'm just going to apply everywhere and just see who will pick me up.
Yeah.
And luckily somebody was willing to take a chance on me. It's like, okay, now that you have your foot in the door, take advantage of, if they have any, paid training or whatever like that, learn the stuff that you can while you're there. Once you build up enough experience, then you can start going after these companies that you want to work for, that you might hear about all the time. If you're, pen testing, you might go, oh, okay, Coalfire sounds fantastic. Like, heard about them in Darknet Diaries, and it sounds like a really dope place to work for. Or if you're blue teaming, and you want to be more on like the educational side of things. Oh, okay, maybe might want to try to do a thing at Range Force or something. But I think you really have to make sure that you get that experience first, because some of these other bigger companies, they might bring you on without any experience, but it's only going to help you, I think, if you're just, when you're starting off, just trying to get in anywhere and get some baseline fundamental experience first.
Yeah. And I think honestly, once you get that first, year experience or so under your belt, and you're able to kind of talk about this, like, hey, not only theoretically you could do this, but it's like, hey, I did this when that happened. Your opportunities open up way, way more. I mean, I go to LinkedIn now, and it's like constantly recruiter every day. And I think most people are that way once they're in the field for a year or two. So I think just you'll have many more options, and you'll be able to choose where you want to go, I think, in this industry, as long as you just put in the work.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like for me personally, I've always kind of looked at things on like not necessarily the functionality of the job, but more the functionality of like, what's the mission statement for like the company. I've always felt more like impact based. What do I want to like contribute my career towards?
Yeah.
And like first job, I mean, exactly what you guys were saying. Sometimes, you just gotta get your foot in the door, take what you can, and go from there. Brad Proctor actually has a very excellent comment here, and I'll read it aloud. Key is, if the role you are applying for is going to be a stepping stone, be transparent with the company hiring you. If they know what you aspire to do, then they may have a way of helping you to get there. 1000%. And I mean, and that helps, especially if you can land a great manager first off. They'll be able to help with the network, and maybe even the company, if they like you a lot, they'll open up a position specifically for you for that next position. That's a nice little career hack. Keep you from having to like go through logistics of switching jobs.
Well, I mean, too, if you like that company and you don't want to leave, and they're willing to open that up, that's all the more even better for you, because you're like, oh man, like I love this company so much, like they're willing to do this and I don't have to leave. Like they're willing to work with me, on this. I mean, kind of I guess a great example is like my company. Like obviously I love doing the blue teaming stuff, and I can definitely see myself going down that pathway, maybe like more incident response type stuff. But I still love, and enjoy the hacking and learning more about it. I haven't spent a whole lot of time recently doing it, which I hate, but, this isn't like an advertisement or anything, but I know like we're on Republic of Hackers, we're actually starting to get a group going towards studying like the EJPT. And I'm going to be one of those people that is going to study right along with everybody, because it's like, I want to do more of that stuff. I don't do enough of it. And it was what got me going down this entire career field, was learning how to hack. So it's like, I want to get back into that and start, studying more and learning more and everything. So but it's like, like my company's we do other things, but obviously like we have a small security team and it's just all blue team people. Like that's all they are. They're just engineers and analysts, and that's it. And so we don't have anybody that's red team. But I told my boss everything during the interview process. I said, I really, really enjoy hacking. Like I enjoy the pen testing offensive stuff, and they still brought me in. So it's like, in my mind, it almost makes me wonder, like, oh, like if I learn more about this stuff on the side, like, are they going to be willing to open up a position like that later on? Are they wanting me to learn more stuff before they bring that option open to the CEO or whatever?
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, when I was doing the work at the MSP, we didn't offer pen testing as a service until I said, I really want to offer pen testing as a service. So,
Mhm.
It's like once you kind of learn that you go and put in the work, you study something, you get the skill set, go talk to your employer. You don't necessarily have to pull the eject cord right away. You could say, look, I'm going down. I want to go down and get my OSCP. When I get my OSCP, I want to use my OSCP. So I really get an opportunity here for me to do that, or I may have to look elsewhere. And I think having that communication, being open and honest about it, really allows more opportunities for you in the long run, because you never want to burn a bridge. I think, especially in the cybersecurity industry, everything's so small. Everybody knows each other, even if you don't realize it. And so you start burning bridges, you're gonna be shocked that just how much is on fire around you. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
How has making content on your YouTube channel, Harley, and same for you, Makeshift, with the Republic of Hackers Discord. How has that impacted and aided, if at all, your guys' job hunt? If you've been through that since doing this, or how has that opened doors that previously probably wouldn't have been open?
Man, it's all about the cyber cloud, dude. That's what it's about. Yeah, for me, it's been nice because you throw it on your resume, you throw it on your LinkedIn. People just automatically think that you know what you're talking about. It's really cool. It's this weird effect. I I feel like I don't know what I'm doing half the time, but people think I do. But I've gotten some contract work just because I've published things online and I help people out when I see them on Twitter, when I see them on Reddit. I've literally the way I got into pen testing is I was on the OSCP subreddit. Some dude was asking questions. I dropped a link to my blog and I was like, hey man, go check this out. I think it could help you. Then I ended up getting DMs about from a guy who was like, hey, we're looking for someone to come on as an intern for pen testing. Are you interested? And so like I've literally gotten opportunities just because of the content creation, which is awesome because I was doing that to help other people. And if anything, as a thing to put on a resume. And yeah, it's helped me like way more than I ever really thought it would. And it's not like I'm like John Hammond. So
You mentioned contract. Sorry, Meg, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna say, just to answer your question was, the doing the Republic of Hackers stuff for me, I don't necessarily know if it had like a full blown, like help in getting me into the industry or anything, but I think it just adds to, because I mean, I had talked to my my boss and everything and told him like, hey, this is something that I'm involved in, that I co-admin with a bunch of other people and everything, and it just shows and adds to the passion, like you're because he follows me on Twitter and he told me, he's like, between the stuff that I've seen you post on Twitter, from you completing hack the box room, or hack the box machines and try hack me rooms, and then I see you posting, stuff that you're learning or whatever, like it's just all that stuff just just builds on that passion that they were seeing, and that was essentially what ended up getting me in there. So I think even just for other people that are watching this, if you're not in the industry, or you're in the industry and you want to like pivot over to something else, like putting yourself out there and showing people that you're passionate about this is a surefire way to get yourself noticed and to have people kind of go, man, like he might not necessarily have the experience or anything, but like this person's willing to sit back and put in the work to learn this stuff, you know, we're going to
100%.
bring them in because they have that passion that's driving, and that's what we want.
Yeah. As a hiring manager, I will hire passion. I will hire passion over experience more often than not, because you can train the technical skills. You can't train the passion.
There's, you mentioned doing contract work, and there was a question asked by cybersecurity. How do you go about getting involved inside contract work?
Yeah, so contract work is really cool. I think that you have to have a certain level of confidence to be able to start doing contract work, because it's people are hiring you to go do a job. You kind of got to be able to do the job, and so it's definitely something I would worry about too early in your career. But once you feel like you're kind of established and you feel confident that you'd be able to help out when someone needs help, just put yourself out there. And it depends on what your goal is. If is your goal to start a business, do that full time, and leave your current 9 to 5, then yeah, you may want to put some effort into like sales and marketing and really reaching out and trying to cold call companies and all that type of stuff. But if you're really just looking as like hey, I'm looking for some side money to do, what worked for me is putting yourself out there and just talking about your abilities and let people come to you. Again, it goes back to, I created this blog where I just put all my notes instead of typing them privately in a OneNote document on my desktop. I put them online for everyone to see, and that's helped me. And the YouTube content, as soon as I learn something, I'll make a video, post that, boom, that helps me. I go to local security meetups. There's one in Portland called RainSec. So if you're local to Portland, please come out. We'd love to have you. It's really, really cool to be a part of this little small community where everybody, you got people that blue teamers, red teamers, anywhere in between. We get people who aren't even in cybersecurity. I had a dude show up who was in like insurance, and he's like, hey, I just want to learn more about how I can do cyber insurance policies. I was like, cool, let's talk. And so it's just meeting, networking, talking to people. And you never know. Someone's going to be like, hey, I have this need. And you're like, I've got a skill that can help with that. And I think that that's what it's all about. If you don't want to do it in person, go to local meetups in person. You've got Discords, you've got Reddit, you've got all kinds of opportunities today.
How did, you were saying that you were putting your notes, on the blog. How much editing did you do on the notes to be able to make it, I guess, readable on the blog? And did that help at all? And and did that help? Because I know for me, my notes are just ridiculous. So they're not good. That's what I'm saying. And so I have to kind of like go through and like, do additional research to make it actually like human readable, right?
Yeah.
How does the process of posting to a blog, help reinforce your learning? Does it help you, I guess, research and learn some things that you probably wouldn't have learned otherwise, or?
Yeah. And I'm not going to pretend every blog post is super polished. Sometimes it's very much a brain dump. Get this out of my head, go put it there. And then I always tell myself I'll go back and clean it up later. So, I definitely have some of that, but a good portion of it, especially in the early side of the blog, was very much okay, I really want to make this look nice. I want this to be presentable. I've always kind of taken that approach in my work where it's like, I want this to be like quality. If someone paid for this, I'd want them to be happy with the results, even if it's something that I'm putting out for free. So that's kind of where at least my mindset going into a lot of the things that I've published. So like if you ever go look at like a walkthrough that I wrote, or a real like in-depth hacking tutorial that I've done, I try to pay attention to the small details. But it also really requires you to learn, teaching really is the best way to learn, because if you've got to be able to explain it to somebody else, you've got to be able to understand it enough to be able to explain it to somebody else. And that was a huge motivation as to like, okay, I want to go and talk about this thing, but I don't want to look like a total idiot. So I kind of need to know how it works. So for sure, it helped.
Yeah, and my dad's, he's taught in university for, I mean, virtually his entire career, and he told me that when one teaches, two learn. And
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
about that often. I think about that often. Speaking
It
of note, oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I was just kind of gonna compliment what both of you guys were saying. Um, that is 110% true. Like when I was working in help desk, I ended up having to train somebody up because I was getting ready to leave to go to the job that I'm currently working at. And there were a couple times where like I was explaining something to him and I was just like, crap, like I do this so much that I'm just like on autopilot
Yeah.
and I couldn't remember like specifically what I was actually doing or why I was doing it. And so like I had to like kind of sit there and be like, okay, hold on, pause the training for like half a minute, let me go in, do something, and then refresh my mind on it before I can then regurgitate it back in a teaching manner to you. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is 110% true.
Yeah. And if you're watching this right now and you've ever thought about being a tutor, you've ever thought about trying to teach or mentor anybody, and even if you're just starting your career, like please bring that energy. We've got a lot of content creators, we've got a lot of people, hack the box machine is retired and hundreds of walkthroughs come up. Please put yours up too. We
Yeah.
always want to see that. It's, you never know, man. Like sometimes your teaching style is going to be what really inspires somebody else to learn this stuff. So
I love that point on teaching style because I feel like that for me, like while I was in school, that was like a huge thing that I was like a huge, I guess, barrier I was having with trying to like find content online. Like I feel like I have just like a weird voice that I like I consume content more optimally at, especially whenever it comes to technical content where it can get very abstract, and if you're like reading through it and not watching, I'm more of a visual learner, so like reading a document, it's more difficult for me to be able to consume that and understand it and digest it. But sometimes, like you said, someone like will like you'll find like that random blog post and it's written in just the voice you need, and you consume it and you're like, this is it, like it all clicked, and if you're watching just as exactly as he said, you could be that person. So that's cool.
Yep.
Dot Robin asked about note taking. What do you use for notes? He's tried Obsidian, Mac OS's Notes app, Notepad, Notepad Plus, Notion. They're on OneNote. This is a great question. There's so many great note apps out there.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the purpose. It depends on like what I'm doing. My primary, I think, like note utility is my blog. If it's something, if I'm creating the cheat sheet, 100% that's going on the blog. If I'm creating like, okay, when I hop on a box, these are a series of commands that I run. Like that's going on a blog. If it's a type of attack, like it's like, or a TTP, some sort of technique, that's going on a blog post. So a lot of my stuff is there. And the reason I love that is because it's accessible anywhere, anytime, wherever I'm at. I land on a box. If I want to, I can use that box's browser to pull up my own notes to exploit that box. It's amazing. So I like that for that reason. It also is out there for other people. But internally, whenever it's sensitive things, if I'm like on a pin test and I'm taking notes as I go, screenshots as I go, I love Cherry Tree. It's not as nice, clean, pretty as Obsidian. I've seen Obsidian. I've just never really got into it. But Cherry Tree works on both Linux and Windows, and it does everything I need. You can password protect it, and it's nice.
Meg, how about you?
So for stuff that like for work, and even if I'm trying to jot down something real quick, I do like OneNote. I like the fact that it's just, again, it does exactly what I need it to do. I can sit there, type something out real quick, or copy and paste it in there, and then I can close it out and it saves it. I've started using Obsidian a little bit more. Reason for that is because and I don't know if it was somebody that coded it in our Discord, or if it was something that they found out on like GitHub repo or something. But there is a script that you can run, because Obsidian has like that mind map feature. So it'll like, take your vault and then it'll pinpoint stuff. You can run this script and it will literally scan through like all of your notes and it will create other links in the mind map. And then like when you actually go to view like what your notes are, it'll have like a link that you can click on and it'll take you to that other set of notes.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. So that way it's like, okay, if I'm studying, if I've got a note on, Python scripting or whatever, and it has something in there that could be linked to something else, it'll do it. And it might be something that you could use, when you're coding something,
Very cool.
Yeah.
I've played around with like 3 of the different, like, I guess, nice notes app. I not to say Apple Notes isn't nice. I love Apple Notes and I use it just about every day. But I guess more advanced notes app, right? I started out with, I already forgot it. Well, we'll disregard that one. But right now I use Notion for stuff with the channel. And I like it. It's cool. But I used Obsidian last summer for like a few months while I was at some training. And it's lovely. I love the mind map feature, again, as like a visual person, but also like being able to tag the notes. So you're not having to like reduplicate any like note taking efforts. You can just be like, and like, especially whenever you're reviewing, things, you can just, if you forget what something is, you can link to the note, and it's just so easy to kind of retroactively go through and digest some of the notes you took. One of the issues I had with Obsidian is it's not saved online. It's stored locally. So like say you have it on like one machine and you want to access it on another, you can't really do that unless you store the vault in like a shared cloud folder, like Google Cloud. Yeah.
So I think you can actually, and I remember messing around with this a little tiny bit. I do believe they have a mobile app, at least on Google Play Store, for Obsidian. And I believe, I don't know, and somebody in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that you have to pay to have the vault synced up.
Well, there goes Caleb's money.
It's on Apple Store.
I hear it now.
I don't know.
Though.
I don't know how much
let me
it
download
costs,
it and see about that.
But I do remember trying to do something like that because I was like, oh, okay, like if I go just anywhere, if I have a laptop and I'm out there, and I'm away from my personal PC and I need to access some notes or whatever, I'm not going to run in here. I could just work off my phone.
Or you go to your own blog.
See, yeah, that's where the blog kind of comes in handy is, and I very much encourage anybody to start one because what platform do you use your blog on?
I mean, I'm going to say this and everyone's going to be like, dude, what the hell? I use WordPress, man. WordPress.
Dude, come on.
Go ahead. No, actually, I'm not going to give an open invitation. There's going to be someone here who's going to be like, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Don't do
that.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you that if you don't want to, create a WordPress site or whatever, you want to do it on a different site or whatever, I've used Medium. I think Medium's fantastic. And like, like Harley said, you guys are able to access that literally anywhere. So no matter, and the thing is those notes aren't necessarily beneficial just for you. They're for everybody else that goes and accesses your blog. Your blog may be somebody else's notes.
Yep.
So,
yeah. Everyone in the comments right now, they're going through the details on Obsidian. I love it.
It's funny.
But yeah, you can get it on iOS. That's pretty legit. I just downloaded it. So that's fun. But yeah, no, Medium, that's what I use as well. I haven't posted since like late last month, so I need to get back on it. But
I haven't posted since like early 2019.
There's a StudioSec publication. So if you're looking for someone to curate, well, I don't know if publication gets you curated, but whatever. Anyway. If anybody is watching and they want to post a blog on Medium, hit me up. I can hook you up with a publication to post to. Anyway, With balancing both the blog and the channel, do they generally complement each other, or will you cover separate topics for each platform?
It was really cool because I started the blog before the channel. I started the blog in early January of 2020. I started the channel in August of 2020, I think. And wow, I just realized it's been that long ago. I still think we're in 2019, man. So it's kind of surreal. But yeah, I started the blog in January 2020, and I just started publishing things. And over time, I've actually gained quite a bit of good ranking and SEO, to where I get 1,000 hits per day across all my blog posts. It's pretty cool.
Damn.
But I used that early on to see what type of content people wanted. Because I already had all kinds of blog posts, from cracking zip archives to hack the box walkthroughs to just generic hacking tutorials that I thought were cool. And based on what was performing the most or the best each day, I would start and make videos about that. And then once you publish your video, you just link it in your blog, and then the SEO of the blog helped the channel grow, and the channel helped the blog grow. So it was a lot of I don't know, a lot of good hand-in-hand action going on there. So yeah, it's definitely not like a exclusive only on one side or the other. I think usually if I make a blog post that I think is worthy of a video, there'll be a video about it.
What's your favorite project that's kind of come out of either one? What's the favorite thing that you've written up or made a video about so far?
It's tough because there's so many different types of videos that I like to make. I think that my favorite project is definitely on YouTube. It's YouTube. This one is YouTube only. I did an interactive pin test, and I don't know if you've seen it at all, but it was an idea that I had that I thought was really, really cool. Basically, it's broken into 20 different 60-second videos. But you start by you watch the first one. The first one's like, hey, we're about to do a machine on Hack the Box. And it was a super stupid machine. I think it was Legacy, super easy machine. And you click to start, and then it's like, what do you want to do first? Start with an nmap, or I think I did. Here's your nmap. What do you want to do first? Enumerate SSH, enumerate FTP, and then you click and you choose which one you want. And it kind of just walks you through the process. So a beginner doesn't have to just sit there and watch a video from start to finish. 30 minutes go by, and then this is a little bit more interactive than that. They can kind of pick and choose. Okay, I want to go enumerate that service, or I want to go and look at this thing. So I was really proud of that. I think a lot of people kind of like that one. It was just a ton of work. I mean, it's to make a video like that, even just for a really basic box. I think the whole thing would take someone 8 minutes from start to finish, but it took me, I can't even say how many hours. It was insane.
Honestly, I don't know how IPSec does it, because he does all the retired boxes and everything, and I'm just sitting back bro,
yeah,
because and I've never done a walkthrough, and I probably should have, or at least taken some notes or whatever. But it's you know how to do the box. You like you said, you could do it in 8 minutes or so and be totally fine. But it's you have to sit back and think. It's almost like writing documentation. I have to word this in the way that somebody that has literally zero hacking knowledge could probably come in and use my walkthrough, whether it's video or a write-up, and be able to resolve this box and understand what was going on. Not saying you got to go into super nitty-gritty with them, because I'm sure IPSec or you don't either, but just giving a little bit of okay, I just ran this code and this is what it did to allow this other thing to happen, so you understand at least a little bit of what you were doing.
I really enjoy that type of creation sometimes. Most of the time I think I do, not always. Definitely sometimes I don't want to make a blog about this, right? Because it's screenshot, type this out, screenshot, type that out. It's so tedious sometimes. But at the same time, I do take a lot of pride in that type of quality of work there, and so I want to make it look really nice. And so I'm one of the weirdos that actually enjoy. I'm like Davin. I like to enjoy the the report writing side of pen testing to a point. You know, after the first 20 hours on a report, it's like, okay, time to move on. But
that's actually a good point on report writing that I didn't even think about. You know, that influencing the blog influencing
100%.
report writing.
Yeah, it's the same thing to me. It's the same thing. It's like, if I'm going to deliver something to a client, I want it to be super high quality. I want them to think that they got value. And it, again, kind of like I mentioned earlier, even if it's something free, I'd like to at least have some standard of quality on most of the things I put out.
I was about to say, what about using like the videos to help with the report writing as well? If you wanted to visually walk a client through how you did something and you had like a video up that walking through that, is that like a thing that can happen? Like how can that work?
Yeah. So like a great example is there's a video I made about using malicious LNK files. I love this attack vector. You create this malicious shortcut. So if you could find some file share somewhere that you've got write access to, create this malicious shortcut. You go and drop it in that file share, and someone doesn't even have to open it. They don't have to open the file. They just have to browse over it. And as soon as it tries to load the thumbnail, it's configured to make their computer try to authenticate over the network, over SMB, to your attacker system. It's beautiful. If you've got responder running on your attacker system, you get some beautiful hashes that you can then pass around the network. You can crack them. You can do whatever you want. I love that attack. I love it a lot. And it's not always the easiest to convey step by step what you do when you're in your report. When you're going through and you say, okay, step 1, do this, step 2, do that, put it in the share, wait for the responder, but like a lot of people that aren't technical, they see all those steps in the report and they're just like, I don't get it. What did you do? So I always go to additional resources of my report, and I'll add a link to my video showing the attack. And I don't know if anyone watches it. I don't know if it's helpful for them, but I like to think someone's interested enough, they'll open that, and hopefully that makes more sense to them than my written out version of it. So 100% I do that.
So Harley, what advice do you have for people interested in getting into pen testing and getting into cybersecurity and making content to kind of reinforce their learning and to help teach others?
Do what you love, man, and don't chase the money. If you're here for money, goodbye. Like, seriously, the money will come. The money will come. You just got to do it for the right reasons. If you're passionate about this stuff, like the rest of us are, you're more than welcome to be here. We want you here. We need help. And the more you put yourself out there and the more you're willing to help others, I think is going to go a really, really long way. If you're struggling to get an interview, take a look at what's going on your resume. Take a look at what you're doing to put yourself out there. If you're not really putting yourself out, you're not creating content, you're not helping others, start with that. Then put that on your resume. Have other people help connect you with potential job opportunities. You don't have to know anybody. I didn't know anyone in the field, but you just figure it out by putting yourself out there. So if now you're in the interview, if you're not getting the actual job offer, try to focus more on showing how passionate you are about what it is you're talking about. If you go home and you can play around with VMs and create a little hacking lab, that one gives you things to write about in a blog or YouTube if you decide to go that route. But 2, it just makes it to where you can actually talk about these things a little bit better when you're in interviews. And so, again, I would hire someone over passion and desire to learn and those little things than I would someone who's super technical but kind of not very good at communicating and doesn't really seem to be here for the right reason. So that's my advice.
I love it. I love it 100%. Well, I feel like we've covered so much ground here tonight.
Yeah, man. It's been a great time.
Yeah. And we'd love to have you on again sometime in the future if you're down. There's just so much to talk about. For all we know, we're going to be talking about, we're talking about Whispergate right now. There's going to be, Yelling Gate next.
Yeah.